Some of the stones are even heavier. So how could you have moved these into place? How could you have moved them from Wales, where the blue stones, the spotted dolerite, came from within Stonehenge?
Scientists thought they understood Stonehenge until a new discovery proved them wrong.
Finally, it's hard to imagine these days anyone being allowed to drill into the great stones that form Stonehenge.
Scans of the ground beneath the stones revealed patterns and signals that made even the experts uneasy. With every new test, something stranger emerged, something deliberately hidden. The deeper they looked, the clearer it became that Stonehenge was never what the world believed it to be.
It's the henge, what I think of as these vertical structures made of stone, Stonehenge.
The Stonehenge mystery was finally solved by scientists. For centuries, Stonehenge has been wrapped in mystery, its towering stones and smaller blue stones sparking fierce debate among historians and scientists alike, but now one of its greatest puzzles, the origin of these iconic smaller stones, may finally be solved. The spotlight is on a single rock, the Nual boulder, unearthed about 100 years ago. This football-sized stone has divided experts for decades. Did it arrive naturally, carried by ancient glaciers from Wales, or was it deliberately hauled by humans over 125 miles years ago? A team led by Professor Richard Bevans from Aberystwyth University decided to find out. Using advanced geochemical and microscopic analysis, they compared the Nual boulder to stones from Craig Rosi-Phelan, a rocky outcrop in North Pembrokeshire, Wales. The results were striking. The boulder was an exact geological match, with no evidence it was a glacial erratic. This means it wasn't randomly dropped by retreating ice. Instead, it was almost certainly moved by Neolithic people who were already quarrying stone in that Welsh location around 3000 BCE. The chemical fingerprint, identical levels of thorium and zirconium, tied the Nual boulder and other Stonehenge fragments directly to Craig Rosi-Phelan. The study also uncovered that another buried stone at the site, known as Stone 32D, wasn't the spotted dolerite scientists once believed, but the same foliated rhyolite as the Nual boulder. This type of rock, with its distinctive surface rich in calcium carbonate from centuries underground in chalk soil, offers more proof that humans, not glaciers, brought it here. Moving these stones, some weighing over 3 tons, from Wales to Salisbury Plain would have been a monumental achievement. Most archaeologists agree that Neolithic builders undertook this incredible task, but some, like geologist Dr. Brian John, still argue for the glacier theory, pointing to marks he believes were made by ice dragging the rock across the land. But the new research challenges that view. It suggests those marks could just as easily come from natural weathering, and perhaps the most convincing point is that if glaciers had carried the stones, similar fragments would be scattered all across the plain, yet they're found only at Stonehenge. That, the researchers say, speaks volumes. The latest research doesn't just challenge Dr. Brian John's glacier theory, it dismantles it. The team behind the study stated bluntly that his arguments have no basis in evidence and that presenting them as fact is disingenuous. Their reasoning is simple. Stonehenge itself is the proof. If the massive monument stands today, it's because Neolithic builders moved stones, some weighing up to 40 tons, into place. Unless we believe these enormous slabs just happened to be lying perfectly where they needed to be, they had to be transported, whether a few meters or hundreds of kilometers. And if ancient people could handle the Sarsens, shifting bluestones weighing 2 or 3 tons would have been far less demanding. The Sarsens, towering at over 7 meters and weighing more than 20 tons each, came from West Woods in Wiltshire, about 20 miles away. Even more astonishing, the famous altar stone was brought all the way from Scotland, a journey of nearly 470 miles. That alone proves that long-distance stone transport was possible thousands of years ago. We might never know the exact methods, but history gives us hints. Indigenous communities in more recent times have transported multi-ton stones across vast distances using only ropes, wooden sledges, and trackways, all tools that were available to Stonehenge's builders. And that's part of what makes Stonehenge so extraordinary. While most Neolithic stone circles were created using whatever rocks were close by, this one was built entirely from stones brought from far away. Such an undertaking suggests it wasn't just a ceremonial place, but perhaps a unifying effort for ancient Britain, a political and spiritual statement shaped in stone, connecting people to their ancestors and the cosmos. The new study leaves very little doubt. The blue stones were carried by human hands, not moved by ancient ice. The real mystery now isn't whether people brought them here, it's why they went to such incredible lengths to do it. But what if Stonehenge's true purpose was much more exact? Keep watching to discover. Could the real purpose of Stonehenge be to function as a solar calendar? For thousands of years, people have looked at Stonehenge and wondered, what was it really built for? New research suggests we may finally have part of the answer, and it's not only about rituals or burials. According to Professor Timothy Darville of Bournemouth University, the monument may have been one of the world's earliest and most precise calendars. Published in the journal Antiquity, Darville's study suggests that the massive sarsen stones, the largest in the monument, were carefully arranged as the foundation of a simple and elegant perpetual calendar based on the solar year of 365.25 days. His analysis shows that the sarsens forming the trilithons, the sarsen circle, and the station stone rectangle were all placed between 2620 and 2480 BCE. And remarkably, they have remained in those exact positions ever since. The sarsen circle, perhaps the most striking feature of Stonehenge, was constructed from 30 upright stones connected by 30 horizontal lintels. Darville explains that these 30 stones were intended to form a complete loop, with each stone representing one day of a Neolithic month. In this system, a month had 30 days divided into 3 10-day weeks. Interestingly, stones S11 and S21 slightly break the pattern in shape, marking the beginning of the second and third weeks. 12 cycles of 30 days gave ancient timekeepers 360 days, but what about the remaining days in a solar year? Those were represented by the 5 enormous stones of the trilithon horseshoe at the monument's center. Arranged from smallest to largest, these stones accounted for the final 5 epagamenal days, likely set aside for special festivals or religious events. Even more impressive, Stonehenge's builders may have included leap years. 4 station stones arranged in a rectangle on the outer edge allowed for the addition of an extra day every 4th year to keep the calendar aligned with the sun's cycle. This is a sophisticated timekeeping system, especially for a society without written records. Darville notes that in non-literate cultures, embedding a calendar directly into a massive stone monument makes sense. It would have been essential for farming communities, guiding them on when to plant crops, celebrate harvest festivals, or honor specific deities. It also carried political importance. Controlling the calendar meant controlling the rhythm of life itself, and beyond the practical, it anchored spiritual beliefs, ensuring that ceremonies took place on the correct days to please the gods. In this view, Stonehenge was more than just a gathering place. It was a time machine in stone, linking earth, sky, and people, and marking the passage of the seasons with a precision that still amazes us today. But Stonehenge may also conceal secrets you can actually hear. Stonehenge's hidden acoustic mysteries uncovered. Stonehenge may have been more than a monument to the sun and seasons. It could also have been built to shape sound in remarkable ways. A new study from acoustics engineers at the University of Salford suggests the prehistoric stone circle was designed to enhance voices and music, creating an intimate soundscape hidden from the outside world. To uncover these mysteries, the team carefully built a 1:12 scale replica they named Minihenge. Using laser scans from historic England, they recreated every curve, height, and gap of the original monument as it stood around 2500 BCE. Missing stones were restored in their ancient positions, 157 in total, based on the latest archaeological evidence. The stones were 3D printed and treated to replicate the real rock's acoustic qualities, creating the most accurate reconstruction ever attempted. Testing took place in the university's specialist acoustic chamber, where speakers and microphones replaced Neolithic voices and drums. Because of the smaller model size, all sounds were played 12 times higher than normal, shifting them into the ultrasonic range. The results were incredible. Inside the circle, voices carried with impressive clarity. The arrangement of stones amplified sound by more than 4 decibels without creating echoes, and it blocked most outside noise from entering. Conversations or music played at the center could be heard clearly within the inner ring, but barely at all beyond it. You'd think the sound would just disappear into the air, said lead researcher Trevor Cox, but the stones bounce it back and forth. It's quite magical. This clever design suggests that rituals and ceremonies held at Stonehenge were meant for a select audience, those standing inside the ring, while the rest of the gathered community, perhaps outside the circle, could only watch. The monument's massive size might have been built to impress the many, but its sound was reserved for the few. When researchers tested their mini-henge model, they experimented with different arrangements of the stones, reflecting archaeological evidence that the monument was rearranged several times over its long history. Surprisingly, these changes made almost no difference to how the sound behaved. To the human ear, the acoustics would have felt the same. This finding suggests that while sound played a role in Stonehenge's design, it likely wasn't the main reason for how the stones were arranged. Most experts still agree that astronomical alignment tracking the sun, moon, and seasons was the primary guiding principle. Still, the monument's musical qualities continue to fascinate. Stonehenge hums when the wind blows strongly, says musicologist Rupert Till, who has studied its acoustics. Some believe that certain smaller stones were chosen not just for their appearance or location, but for their sound. When struck, they produce a resonant tone, almost like a metallic gong. In 2014, lead acoustics researcher Trevor Cox suggested they might have been used as percussion instruments during ceremonies. That idea isn't just speculation. In 2013, a team from the Royal College of Art managed to play Stonehenge's so-called ringing stones like a giant xylophone, creating an otherworldly kind of rock music. Their study, published in Time and Mind, the Journal of Archaeology, Consciousness and Culture, concluded that these acoustic effects were probably even stronger in ancient times, before many of the stones were set into reinforced concrete, a modern addition that reduced their natural vibrations. If true, Stonehenge was not just a place to watch the sky or mark the seasons, but a space where sound and stone came together, a theater for both sight and song. But could the origin of Stonehenge be connected to something magical? Let's find out. Merlin and the magical origins of Stonehenge. Long before scientists examined its stones with lasers and microscopes, Stonehenge existed in the realm of legend, and in those ancient tales, one name stood above all others: Merlin, the mystical wizard of King Arthur's court, master of spells, dragons, and the very forces of nature. According to medieval lore, Stonehenge wasn't built by human hands at all, but by magic. The story begins in the 5th century, after a brutal massacre of British nobles by invading Saxons. King Aurelius Ambrosius, uncle to the future King Arthur, wanted to honor the dead with a monument unlike anything seen before. Ordinary stone wouldn't do. He needed something eternal, something infused with power. Merlin had the answer. In Ireland, he said, stood a circle of giant stones placed there by ancient giants, stones said to hold mystical healing powers. These were known as the Giant's Ring, their origins traced in legend to Africa, brought to Ireland by supernatural beings. King Aurelius sent an army to seize them. The soldiers won the battle, but they couldn't move the enormous stones. That's when Merlin stepped forward, summoning his magic to lift the megaliths into the air and carry them across the sea to Salisbury Plain, where he arranged them into the sacred circle we know today. The tale first appeared in Historia Regum Britannia by Geoffrey of Monmouth, a blend of folklore, national pride, and poetic imagination, but for centuries it was taken as truth. Many genuinely believed giants, wizards, or other supernatural forces had raised Stonehenge. After all, how else could people thousands of years ago have built it without modern tools or machines? And the Merlin legend is just one thread in a tapestry of myths. Some say Stonehenge is the burial place of 2 kings, Uther Pendragon, father of Arthur, and King Aurelius himself. Others claim it predates the biblical flood, its origins tied to a lost civilization or even survivors from Atlantis. Even Julius Caesar's Romans believed it was the work of ancient druids. To medieval minds, its perfect design and massive stones seemed far too extraordinary to be ordinary human work. Myths didn't just try to explain how it was built, but why it existed at all, and magic felt like the only answer. Today, we know Merlin's role is pure legend, yet the site still draws people for its deep spiritual pull. Modern druids and pagan groups gather during the summer solstice and winter solstice, honoring the same solar alignments the ancient builders once marked. It turns out they're closer to the truth than they think, not magic, but astronomy. The stone's alignment with the rising sun at the solstice shows a sophisticated understanding of the heavens. In the end, the real story isn't about sorcery or giants, it's about generations of humans working over centuries, creating a monument that blended ritual, mystery, and cosmic meaning. Yet beyond the myths and magic lies another cosmic clue. Let's find out what it is. Stonehenge's secret lunar connection. For centuries, we've known that Stonehenge was built with breathtaking precision to align with the sun. On the summer solstice, the sunrise appears directly over the heel stone at the site's entrance, sending its first golden rays deep into the heart of the monument. In winter, the sunset aligns just as perfectly, slipping away to the southwest beyond the stone circle. But now, scientists are investigating something even more mysterious: the possibility that Stonehenge's builders also designed it to track the moon. The clue lies in an astronomical event called a major lunar standstill. This rare phenomenon happens only once every 18.6 years, when the points where the moon rises and sets are at their most extreme on the horizon. It's a slow-moving cosmic rhythm that would have taken ancient observers decades to fully understand. Now, with another standstill on the horizon, researchers from University of Oxford, University of Leicester, and Bournemouth University, in partnership with English Heritage and the Royal Astronomical Society, are seizing the chance to study it directly from Stonehenge itself. Central to the theory are the 4 station stones that once formed a large rectangle around the monument. Only 2 still stand today, but some archaeologists believe their positions mark the moon's extreme rise and set points. This year-long project will use the rare alignment to record measurements, capture light patterns, and test whether Stonehenge was built to honor not just the sun, but also the moon. Watching the moon's extremes is far more difficult than watching the sun, explained Amanda Chadburn of the University of Oxford. It takes precise timing, clear skies, and patience. We want to see what it was really like for the builders to experience these dramatic moon rises and moonsets, and how the light and shadows moved across the stones. Stonehenge's connection to the moon might go back to its earliest days around 3000 BCE, when it served as Britain's largest Neolithic cremation cemetery. Many of the burials were placed in the monument's southeast corner, exactly where the moon reaches its most southerly rise during a standstill. Later, around 2500 BCE, the massive sarsen stones and the station stones were added, possibly strengthening a tradition that began thousands of years earlier. Over the centuries, Stonehenge has faced neglect and damage, but how have they survived? Centuries of vandalism and modern threats. Stonehenge has faced a surprising enemy over the centuries: people themselves. Long before it became a protected heritage site, the monument was slowly taken apart piece by piece. Up until the 17th century, stones actually disappeared from the site, carried away to be used in building projects. By the 19th century, visitors were chipping off small pieces of rock with chisels to take home as souvenirs. In the 1970s, the annual Free Festival brought crowds to the site. The first few years saw little harm done, but by 1978, authorities had to fence off the area. In the 1980s and 1990s, things escalated. Repeated vandalism, including a 1984 incident where the stones were defaced with purple spray paint, led to barriers being set up, exclusion zones created for miles around, and even hundreds of police deployed to protect the stones. For a time, the government closed Stonehenge entirely, but public outcry forced them to reopen it. Vandalism continued in unexpected ways. In 2008, 2 men used a hammer and screwdriver to chip off a piece of the heel stone no bigger than a 10-pence coin, the first recorded incident in decades. In 2020, controversy erupted when the British Transport Minister approved a long-debated plan to build a tunnel near Stonehenge. Critics called it state-sponsored vandalism, with historian Tom Holland describing it as unbelievable destruction of the landscape. The court ultimately allowed the project to proceed. Even protests have targeted the monument. On June 19, 2024, climate activists from Just Stop Oil sprayed 3 of the standing stones with orange cornflower paint. English Heritage called the act extremely upsetting and began an investigation, but the powder was later removed without leaving visible damage. So, what do you think about what scientists finally discovered? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found it interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on your favorite celebrity stories. See you there.